I don't think, I mean, time and time again, top has sort of, in this matchup, been sort of neutralizes each other out. I mean, you have seen solo kills here and there, but between these two top laners, I don't suspect that to happen. It is the Comet, as you pointed out, on the Aurelion Sol.
Does make sense. Opted for the bone plating second, though, which is quite weird. Normally second wind picked up versus the Victor, but doesn't really matter overall. Also the fleet from the Na'Vi, I think that's pretty standard these days. Having the movement speed to kite out the Jax does feel really good. There's actually Ghost on the Jax, though.
Yeah, a bit of extra team fight pressure, perhaps, although the Flash does enable more sort of counter-strike stun setup, but...
Yeah, maybe just need it to kind of chase down Na'Vi on the side. Otherwise, just can never really catch up. Just keep getting kited out. So my eyes here for the early game are going to be a lot on where the junglers are pathing, because I think Gemini can go basically anywhere, has priority pretty much everywhere. Maybe won't get priority mid. Jimmy and has gone for the first strike rather than the like airy build early. So might just like try and scale in this matchup as opposed to try and win it. Could even see a bot dive coming out early.
Playtrue looking, does somehow land that onto Bruce. Cleanse will be expended here, but that looked like a hit inside of me. But anyway, it did land onto Bruce.
I think that bot trade actually does mean quite a lot. Losing that HP and losing that cleanse when Sejuani is pathing towards the Krugs does mean that you have to be a little bit scared of the bot dive.
And so it's hooked down there now, but Slaytrue getting quite low. Shun running forward and definitely like these early trades for the Draven rather than the Zeri, but Slaytrue has to be careful now. He can't get too excited with these hooks at his current health.
Yeah, they did lose a lot of HP. I think diving now will be pretty hard, especially with Lava in the area, who wisely actually soloed Raptors and then immediately pathed down the map. So is going to be here in time to counteract any sort of early dive.
And there's a bit of shenanigans at this Gromp, but now that Gemini sees this, we'll know that Vi was in the area. We'll chase him around, but you have to think because they know Vi's here, this dive is going to be extremely hard to pull off.
Yeah, I think this should be counterable.
Yeah. Really well played by Lalva to play with this vision, as tower aggro was only taken just at the end there, and you have to feel like that's probably not worth it for Shun to take the tower damage, but Gemini now starting up on this Gromp is a level up, so Lalva has to be really careful of Sejuani at the moment.
Yeah, I think it was nicely played by Lava to kind of path down and make sure that was defended. It's really big for the Zeri Lulu that you don't die early. At the same time, is feeling kind of the pain of having no priority lanes, right? Is pushed in mid and bot. Could maybe go towards top. Right now, Long has a little bit of push, but kind of feels like that doesn't really amount into anything. I don't think you can ever look to enter the jungle here on the side of CFO. So Gemini does find that lead early, kind of just expected based off the lane matchups. And mid, though, is just kind of farming back and forth. Doesn't look like there's been any damage really traded at all. This Scuttle will be picked up by Lava, which is a nice pickup. Rest looks pretty ungankable in this top side, so most likely we'll just go back and clear up his red that actually still hasn't been cleaned up yet. It's an interesting path.
They're definitely not following those Riot-given jungle pathings.
And Lava could be in trouble. I mean, Sedge is invading once again. Spots him out. I think neither mid laner really wants to come to this, so it should just be a 1v1. I guess Minji could come, but can't offer much.
We'll get there a lot quicker, though, if he does decide to. As it comes down to a smite fight, you have to think. Lalva does get it and will be able to queue away. So, nice pickup from there. And, I mean, him getting that means Gemini did waste a little bit of time. We'll come back around again. We just see constant brawling between these two junglers currently.
Yeah, the pain of having 3 no prior lanes. I feel bad for Lalva. Really, as honestly, I feel like managed this situation very well. But just the reality of jungling with no winning lanes is it's going to be extremely difficult. There's really no doubt about it. And it does find himself at least slightly behind, but has managed to stabilize bot, and the rest of his lanes seem in relatively decent spots. So I actually think, you know, yeah, given the hand that Lava was dealt, has done not too bad with it.
Yeah, and as Jimmy gets lower on this mana, you'll have a better time as Minji to be able to sort of scale up on Aurelion's soul in this mid lane. I guess Jimmy will be backing and teleporting now. Gemini starting up this dragon, and honestly, Lalva's still level 3. It feels so terrible to be this Vi in this situation. Enso is coming to look to help him, as well as Bruce to deny dragon. I mean, this is just a CFO classic. 5 minutes 30, the dragon has been started, but denied. So well played by J-Team there to not allow CFO to sort of play to this win condition they so often look for.
It's forced off. Lava, it's level 3 while both mid laners are level 6. I think he might be able to get level 4 off this Raptor camp here. But that's kind of insane. Just has been denied so many camps by Gemini. Looks like he does hit the level 4. Could look for something mid, but you have to feel it can never be anything more than a flash. And might not even be one at that. Looks like Minji will be opting for the Rod of Ages, so has the Catalyst, which is very important for laning up against something like the Victor, who just has so much poke. Rest looks like he's almost going to get this top plate here. Actually walks away from it. I don't think he's going to get the gold, right?
He doesn't?
No.
That's quite important in that, as we do see Hook land here onto Enso, but honestly, trade is better here for J-Team. However, looking for Scuttle, another brawl possibly between these two junglers. Will smite it away and look to head out. I don't know how many stacks we're at on Minji so far. It's only 7 minutes in, but...
Yeah, it looks like he's been able to stack relatively freely. I think Jimmy, without having a laning keystone, can't really poke Assault out enough for it to really matter. And has been that top plate taken. It says 175 gold, but I don't think Rest actually picked it up. Long. It's going to be traded on just at the back end of this. That drag still remains alive, and I have to say, versus CFO, that's kind of unusual, right? Normally they do manage to get that dragon very early, but haven't really just had the... They've had prior in the lanes, but they've never had so much prior that they've just been able to start it up and kind of take it. And a lot of time, I feel like, especially from bot lane, CFO do just tend to have the stronger laning bot lane in terms of both, you know, matchup and players. I think the Lava being able to pass down early and make sure that dive didn't get off successfully was such a big deal. Could be seeing a very different game if not for that. CFO are pushing in this bot lane. I wonder if they'll swap up for Herald or not. I think getting Herald, maybe using it top, could be good. They have one play on the Gnar already, so it can be broken open a little bit easier. Pause will be coming in.
We just have a player mic issue, so hopefully it won't be too long. But interesting to see. I feel like J-Team have done a fantastic job at slowing down this early potential snowball from CFO. Denying the Dragon, also, importantly, Lava being there for that gank, really has allowed them to sort of get to a position where maybe we will see scaling come in. I mean, Dragon is traditionally like the win con at the moment in League of Legends, and at the moment, I think the earliest it can come in is, I think, 30 minutes.
Yeah, they've done a good job of kind of neutralizing it early. The one thing I kind of worry about still is that until Draven actually dies, there's always the threat of that massive cash-in, right? And then suddenly just finds himself massively far ahead. So I will always be keeping that in the back of my mind until Draven eventually, you know, gets taken out. Until then, I don't really feel like CFO's early game has been completely dismantled, but it is, I think, a fairly solid start from J-Team, coming up against what is one of the stronger early game teams, drafting like a pretty greedy scaling comp, and so far, you know, I think only 400 gold behind or something, so certainly within touching distance, which is exactly where you want to be, especially when you come into kind of those mid-game team fights. And no dragons picked up. I mean, that's really good if you're the scaling team, right? You can just look to kind of scale into the game, not worry about being forced to come out and contest the third dragon at 20 minutes, or so often happens against CFO. Definitely a nice start for them.
Yeah, you could argue one dragon picked up, but it is the Aurelion Soul. Second time actually today. First 2 times in the PCS, so quite exciting. I want to see a bit of better execution than we saw in the first game of Aurelion Soul. I mean, it did get very ahead, but didn't really amount to anything. I want to see Minji really push his stacks and push this champion to the limit of what it can really do.
And we are getting back into the game. Dragon and Herald are now both alive, so there is a trade here as an option. Lava's looking for something bot, but it's not level 6. Maybe can hit 6 off a couple creeps? Bruce actually hit 6 before his jungler. Not what you want to see.
Yeah, and CFO probably suspecting something's up because I don't imagine Bruce and Enso were playing particularly bravely up until that moment, but nice dodge out there by Long.
Yeah,
it's getting quite low in this top lane.
Yeah, it looks like it will be a plate picked up here for Rest. And the tower, you know, is getting a little bit closer to being heraldable. Looks like on the other side, J-Team will secure their first drag. So that honestly kind of shuts down the CFO drag win condition completely. Or at least delays it for a very long time. Jimmy, and he's going to spot this out. Has to maybe be careful if Lava hits 6 off this.
He does hit 6, but won't look for anything. I guess Gemini is again in the area and quite strong early game as the Sejuani.
Jimmy does have the laser upgrade now, so can get a lot of priority over this mid wave, and I think Minji can just kind of clear the wave at tower. Don't think there'll be too much, plates or anything taken away. It is quite hard for Victor to actually stop Minji from stacking. The W kind of comes out a bit too slowly. And also you just have to close a lot of that range. Victor, normally prefers to play on that kind of E range instead. Gemini is going to grab this top scuttle. Maybe you can look towards heralding top at some point. Might even just save it to try and break mid as well. Breaking mid against ASOL can be very, very tough. Especially when the Zeri is going to rotate mid later on as well. So if you can get damage on that mid tower early, it could be quite valuable.
Yeah, and Long kind of losing out on many of these trades in the top lane. You saw how much effect bone plating just had in that short trade there.
Yeah, Rest does have himself a small lead off the plate and the CS that he's picked up. But it's definitely not game-breaking, and none of the lane leads are. They're all, slightly in CFO's favor. There are maybe potential for plays around bot. I think everywhere else is kind of ungankable at the moment, but you see both CFO and J-Team's junglers moving down. Gemini, maybe he just wants to look for some sort of dive and break this tower.
Lava is close by at the Wolves, though. You suspect he'll sort of sniff this out, and you will see Sejuani there, I do believe, as Slater is coming in. Lava has to be really careful. Shun will be spotted out with that Zeri laser. It's looking like a 4v4 might be breaking out. Bruce getting really aggressive. Does dodge out as Nautilus will be engaged on. Zeri ult comes out. Jimmy in with a massive Chaos Storm. He picks up Lava on this side as Bruce is trying to get damage done, but massive pickup there. Importantly, however, doesn't go over to Shun, so no massive cash-in of yet, and both bot laners here for CFO are low.
I think there does end up obviously a lot better for CFO. They get that first kill, and I think going over to Jimmy on the Victor, while not quite as good as Shun's Draven, it's still a very important pickup. It was kind of questionable, I think, for the side of J-Team to contest that. You still don't even have the Rod of Ages completed on ASOL, right? So while Catalyst is very strong for 1v1 laning, it's very poor for the skirmishing, especially against the Lost Chapter, right? It gives Victor just a lot more damage, and now with that plate, or the Herald dropped mid to take the plates, I think Jimmian is, at least for now, going to scale a lot better than ASOL just in these kind of next few fights. It's going to take Minji a long time to kind of be on a comparable level.
Bruce in trouble here. Really, really has to survive so as to not give over that gold. Is extremely low now. Can he get away? Shun only just doesn't pick him up, and that is really massive. He does lose Flash, however. Maybe a bit too far in that lane, but by the skin of his teeth, he does just get away.
It was 2 flashes used there for 1. I think overall is pretty decent for Bruce. If Shun had the mana for ult, could have taken him out. Gemini actually getting pretty aggressive with very little health here. Yeah, I feel like he is just going to get forced away from it unless the bot lane can come up.
Jimmy coming down too, and remember he now has that Leandri, so extremely strong on this Victor right now.
Yeah, both mythics completed for the mid laners, but that does mean that Jimmian is a lot stronger, at least for now. Until that Rod of Ages finishes scaling, Leandri's is much, much better. Rest is actually just going to complete... No, it cancels the recall. It goes back to harassing. And top is getting very low.
Yeah, Rest jumping away. Really well done on that. But Long, you probably imagine, just will push this in and recall, get mana back and health back. And although he did get a lot of mana back just there from the cookie.
Yeah, it does have the biscuit. I wonder if he can play for a dive.
Yeah, Rest getting really low. No flash available for Long. Ghost will be popped, but Rest does get away. But he will teleport in. But I guess... all in all, it's just really Flash used. And Ghost.
Yeah, Flash used for Ghost. Ghost is a slightly shorter cooldown, though. Dragon will be spawning another 40 seconds. I think CFO should try and use their mid lane strength as well as the Mythic, or not the Mythic, the Essence Reaver completed for Shun to pick up this drag. They can start building towards their Dragon win condition, but it is actually quite far away. And Minji, now with the Roa and the upgraded ultimate, it's going to be pretty strong in this fight if they choose to go for it. Will they, though? I feel like without Bruce having the Mythic, probably want to give over one. We'll have to see, though.
Yeah, you have to feel like they're a lot weaker if they do try to fight this. And honestly, as the comp that clearly scales better, you don't need to. You can just give it away. Lalva will get away there from the Glacial Prison, as Jimmy will also get out of the black hole, and all will be okay.
I think the scaling better is still with an asterisk, right? Like, you've got this Victor who's very, like, fed already, and also Draven can outscale Zeri just by getting so many more items earlier. Obviously won't outscale at 6 items, but just accelerates so fast. J-Team, they want to fight.
Hook lands here, and Bruce is getting knocked up by that Nord ult. 2 already down. Bruce will jump away, as Minji was never even able to enter that fight. I don't really know why they even tried.
That was really strange from J-Team. I think if you do want to contest that, surely you want Minji to kind of group up. Instead, I feel like almost haphazardly contested it, and so didn't fully commit to it. And now that kill is picked up by Draven, another kill picked up by Jimmy, and so kind of, I don't know, it just felt like they didn't really commit to either giving up the dragon or fighting it, and they're punished as a result.
Draven backing now. Let's see how much gold and what items he can pick up. You almost imagine it's nearly going to be a mythic.
I wonder how much gold he got from the shutdown. Does get, okay, yeah, he definitely spent a lot. J-Team deploying topside, want to try pick up this Herald off the back of CFO's bad tempo. I think CFO, though, you're happy to give this up. In fact, could even contest it. You have ults fairly soon.
Yeah, Nautilus and Gemini are in the area, so do have to be mindful. Will be picked up. Can he get the eye? Does. Now it's the job of making it out. Looks like he'll be fine.
Decent pickup there for J-Team. I kind of don't feel like it turns into anything, but at least denying that off the map I think is really important for keeping your mid tower alive. Poor Lalva, though, is just forced out of the jungle once again. Can they keep up this mid tower? It's very, very low. I don't think they can. There's too much engage that can come out as well. The tower will fall, and CFO, despite not having their drag win condition, are starting to like pull really far ahead, and I'm not sure. The scaling of J-Teams isn't so much better than CFO's that they can just relax for 40 minutes and then win the game. I think the fact that Jimian and Shun are both already accelerated means that it's going to take a long time for the J-Team carries to catch up, right? Maybe do outscale at that kind of 4th item mark, but that's a long time to wait and a lot of time that they have to find in this game.
Yeah, we see Jimian get himself another tower up in this top lane, so a lot of map pressure will be available towards this sort of Baron side as Baron sort of nears coming up. It will be available in 3.5 minutes. And I wonder how many stacks Minji's at. I haven't been able to see that quite yet this game.
It did go for the Rod of Ages, so might be a little behind on some of the stacks. Just didn't have AP for a long time with that Catalyst.
Yeah, 180. We see it now.
Yeah, so it's decent. Definitely nothing to write home about, though. It's still remaining competitive within the game, though. It looks like he'll be going for that Rylai's second. I think it can be quite hard to play A-Sol when your team is this far behind, though, just because there can be so much damage that comes through, and you never really feel confident about going forward. I mean, look at the kind of difference in mid, just in terms of gold. It's much in Jimian's favor, and as well the ADC, despite it only being 1 kill, just the Draven cash-in is really accelerated Shun so far ahead of Bruce now. And Rest obviously hasn't really had any attention put towards him, but does have himself a 600 gold lead. Pretty much isolated 1v1. It's better than nothing. Minji continues to farm the side lane, and it's quite difficult, I think, for CFO to break anything more. Probably instead need to wait for Baron or for more dragons to be up. While they do have a lot of engage, it's just a very difficult comp to dive, right? There's a lot of counter engage that comes through, as well as the Zeri Lulu is just naturally hard to dive.
Riftfield use and Rest doing a good job sort of fighting away those two, but will ultimately go down, and I'm not sure if Long got gold, but definitely Lalva did.
2 items now come through for Jimmy, and it's going for the Shadow Flame. So once, you know, a bit stronger early game, I think especially works well if you're the solo AP on your team. There's actually been no Merc Treads picked up against Sejuani yet. I think maybe just... Yeah, okay, so Long goes for the Tabi for the 1v1. And then Zeri's got the cleanse who doesn't need mercs. I wonder if actually a lot of MR won't come through, and then Jimian will just be able to deal so much damage. It's really nice when what is your main AP carry gets fed, especially if you've got other AD threats as well. It just becomes extremely difficult to actually itemize. Tower does go down for Rest, and a substantial gold lead here now for CFO.
Yeah, and as J-Team now, your playoff contention is on the line. You really have to find a way back or at least to sort of stem the bleeding, if you will. And I think, I mean, their carries are still competitive, right? Both of them are behind in gold through the nature of the kills and towers, but I just don't know, like, what do you look for? I feel like you give this next dragon, and I feel like you've been given sort of a lifeline with this Cloud Soul instead of one of those other very, you know, game-ending souls.
Yeah, I think that the Cloud Soul is probably the best you can ask for. It's still not great. You really don't want to give it over. You're probably just looking to scale up for a very long time and maybe even play to deny the Baron. I think the A-Soul makes it quite difficult to actually do the Baron. You can always just drop the E and the R in the pit. So from the side of J-Team, I think you do have the time to scale if you want it. But instead, they're actually going to look for some sort of proactive play. I think if this happens, though, it has to be on Shun or Jimian. I'm not really sure if killing Rest actually does anything. Dragon is going to be picked up by CF on the other side of the map. They're really trying to get some sort of trade on the top side, but Rest wisely keeping his distance. If he walks up too far, would be engaged on. Does play it well, though. Manages to avoid that potential danger there. Second Dragon picked up for CFO, and they have themselves a 6,000 gold lead. Baron is very doable. They've got a lot of sustain from this Draven. They also just have a lot of DPS with the Leandries coming in from the Victors. So they can look for that, and I think especially with the control that they have around mid already, could actually be on the cards. They are doing their best to siege down some of this tower. It is quite difficult to break, though. Kind of mid-tower, mid-tier 2 is always the hardest one to break. You got to break a lot of these other tier 2s first. Just kind of bring people down from the side lanes. It's just so hard to actually engage on that tower. I'd like to see them instead try and break this top tier 2. Well, it looks like they're committing back towards mid.
Yeah, Glacial Prison will land onto long, cleans away, and is able to dash out there, but that cleanse being down means Bruce is so much more vulnerable. As Chaos Storm is used, Bruce will try to ult for the movement speed and will just survive. As I say that, Draven ult does come through. He has to be careful of that Whirling Death coming back, but is able to dodge out on that, and massive find there. Flash still available for Bruce, but not having that ult means he will be so weak if there is to be a team fight coming up, and Baron is alive, so...
Yeah, really nice chunk there, I think, especially from Jimian. Getting the chunk on the Zeri actually made it so they could take that tower. Just made it into a 5v3 with Long forced to answer top. Now they can use this to break open the other tier 2 towers as well. Can build themselves up a really big gold lead. This is something that CFO does very well. They use their time in between objectives to its fullest, whereas we see a lot of other teams kind of wait for those objectives to spawn, just kind of force the dragon fight every 5 minutes. But here are doing a good job of still trying to keep the pressure on. J-Team retaking some of this Baron vision. I don't think they'll ever start it up, but just want to make sure that it isn't taken by CFO. TP comes through from Jimian. Rod of Ages is now completed by Minji. I feel like it's still very far behind, though. Honestly, he's been doing fine for himself, but just the problem is Jimian is so accelerated.
Yeah, almost through no fault of his own, right? A few questionable dragon fights, as well as that sort of fight around the blue buff earlier, has just led to this Vector being so accelerated, as well as Shun, honestly.
Lolva is so far behind in gold that he's only 200 gold ahead of Slay True and is very far behind Gemini. So, again, we kind of said Lolva, it's going to be very difficult jungling in this game with 3 losing lanes. Kind of did what he could, but does find himself now extremely far behind and honestly kind of made of paper up against this enemy comp. You're just a Black Cleaver Vi, and you can be killed in just a moment by what is almost 3 items here on Shun. CFO, they're now going to take a little bit more of this Baron vision away. It's top jungle. Can they look for something? Bruce doesn't have the cleanse, so there is a small window that they still could look for.
How do you ever look in? How do you ever like get in? If Gemini's here, it's so hard for J-Team to ever get in for vision. Like, you can use some of that range to find out where he is, but you have to be so careful, particularly without this cleanse on Zeri. She can never get hit by a Glacial Prison, or she will just go down, and almost certainly will lead to Baron. So
the J-Team, they are trying to keep this vision. It is very difficult, though, like you said, will be forced away. I think their one kind of window to check is whenever Jimian shows on that top wave, they know at least that one person is showing. It is really tough, though, for J-Team to actually take this back. CFO are going to take all the vision and perhaps a bit hesitant to start up the Baron. Don't feel the need to flip the game when they are still ahead. 1 minute on the third drag. I wonder if J-Team will try contest it. I think they definitely have their mid and top kind of scaled to the point where they need. I'd like to see 2 items completed by Bruce. Like we said, in theory outscales the Draven. In reality, is more than a full item behind. So it is going to be pretty difficult to actually catch up until very late into the game.
Very accelerated is Draven, and I don't know how many stacks he has right now, but I'm pretty sure it's been like roughly 120 CS worth of minions since he cashed in. So again, if he gets another kill, it'll almost be another full item. And yeah, the game really gets out of hand at that point.
I think while the game is still, you know, fairly quiet in terms of kills, I think the game is almost on a knife's edge at this point, just because if CFO win a fight, they're going to take away the whole game.
Glacial Prison is used, will land on Enso, and he goes down immediately to that Chaos Storm of Jimmian.
I wonder, do CFO look towards Baron? I think they can. They did commit 2 ultimates, so probably have to look for a turn. But they know that they can tank this Baron pretty much forever and have great DPS. I really like the positioning from Slater and Jimmian.
Yeah.
Just zone out.
J-Team do know it started, so everyone is headed towards here, except for Long, but teleport available on him. It looks like they will just be giving it as Bruce gets hooked up, lands the ult on from Nautilus, does manage to just get away. Minji looking in, but possibly going too far ahead as Rest is trying to get towards him. Chooses not to.
It is ultimately CFO that pick up the Baron. After they got that kill, are just going to be able to snowball to so much more. And I think this is really their chance to blow the game wide open. They have great dive. They've already broken the mid lane tier 2. And can take more gold on these side lanes as well as the third dragon. So firmly in CFO's control. Now Rabadon's picked up here for Jimmian. Even though the carries of J-Team scale well, they're just so far behind in terms of gold that it almost doesn't matter.
Third dragon started now by CFO, and I mean that puts you on a bit of a timer, but again, maybe Cloud Soul not the most consequential. But yeah, I don't know. It's very hard for you to ever get back in. You really want what looks like, I imagine, will be a Rabadon's by Aurelion Soul. I feel like you really need that to be completed before you can even have a showing in these team fights. But man, with Draven's items, and at the moment there's no healing cut, you feel like it's going to be impossible. Like even if you Vi-ult him, that's not going to kill him. Maybe you need the Jax damage on top of it. It's going to be so hard to cut through this health and healing from Shun.
Tower has gone down. They've got Rest shoving mid. I think that looks like the play is going to be to go for 2 towers. We've seen this before though. Sieging an ASOL down 10,000 gold but has this guy's descend. Could turn this around. There's a lot of lifesteal though on Shun, so it makes it very difficult to actually take him out. Mid tower pressured as well. And it will be the bot tower that now falls. They're doing a good job here, our CFO, of kind of respecting while also pushing both lanes. Looks like bot inhib will just fall and now can rotate perhaps towards mid instead. Hook comes out.
Hook comes out. Larva is going to be altered by Slaytrue as nothing is yet to happen, but ult is committed. So looking for this guy's descent. It could change the course of this game and, the fight and the game even. Nah is used here on the bottom to Bruce. He is eliminated. Sky's Descent comes out. A lot of damage on as Draven altered up by the cease and desist. Shutdown goes over to Enzo. Chaos Storm comes out, is doing a lot of damage here to the members of J-Team as Minji just firing away with that Dragon's Breath. Continuing on. Wing forward? No, will back out. But not the worst fight for J-Team here. Do pick up 2 kills. Unfortunately, massive shutdown going on to Enso, but ultimately will push back CFO for now.
I think given how far behind they were, that was pretty good. You can see just how much damage Aurelion Soul puts out, despite not even having the Rabadons compared to Victor's Rabadons. I mean, if had that in that fight, would be just insanely strong. And when you see a fight like that, it really just makes you question why J-Team fought so aggressively so early around some of those dragons when you know if you can get to these fights, even if you're 10k down, you actually have a chance. So why not just not be 10k down? The engage does come out onto Lava, who manages to disengage, but I think Bruce really made a mistake here. It looks like he was actually engaged on by Rest, I think it was, and then was kind of just followed up and deleted. Actually still managed to deal more damage than Shun in this fight, but I think given how strong he should be at this point, just being taken out like this isn't really a mistake you can afford. And really just huge damage that comes out of Minji. Manages to salvage the fight at least somewhat. Also Long did a great job on the Jax's fight. But yeah, I mean, I guess you see the strengths and weaknesses of both comps here, right? The Zeri, despite being fed, was taken out in relatively short order. But we do see kind of Minji scaling. Is it too little too late? Actually goes for the Shadow Flame, which is, I'm just going to say, it's terrible. I don't know why you would ever buy that over Rabadon's here, especially like when you've got so much AP already. I know he has Absolute Focus Gathering Storm. I'm like, oh, actually, no, that was last game. Okay, maybe it makes a little more sense. Might not have the AP. At the same time, I feel like Shadow Flame is already just sort of useless. There's a lot of magic resist on the front line already.
With Arcane Comet, though, you would suspect the runes.
Yeah, I think he still had Gathering Storm. I don't think he had Absolute Focus, but
okay.
It is really strange.
Siege happening too. Slaytrue is chunked. Minji will get hit by that Glacial Prison, but fairly inconsequential, and waves cleared out. Now maybe you just have to wait for this Baron or Soul. Although minions coming in here, attacking the Nexus, you really have to defend this third inhib, otherwise could be spell real big problems for J-Team. And again, if they lose here, they will be out of playoff contention, so they've really got to knuckle down and play fantastically for the end of this game.
They are being forced away from a third inhib, and a third inhib often just you know, ends the game straight off. It's very hard to defend against it. They're going to try and engage.
Onto Slaytrue, not the target you'd want. Lava Wild Groves and uses Stopwatch at the same time, so a bit desynced there. Rest on the side, jumped on by Long. Third inhib, importantly, will go down. Jimmy doing a big chunk of the laser onto Long at the side there. As I don't really know if they can defend. They do have the Sky's Descent. Maybe we have to look for that. Wing in. Gets the Black Hole down. Will be disengaged by the Victor ult. Rest jumping in too. Minji, can he even get it down anywhere? Really has to look here. No, nothing yet. Rest. Bruce trying his best to kite out, but ult used a bit late and does pick up Slaytrue, but the game will be over, and so is J-Team's chances to get to playoffs.
Yeah, rough. I think definitely will be pretty frustrated about that game, especially Lalvo, who just had a jungle with 3 losing lanes. I think it's really weird the way that J-Team drafted. I think if you know you're looking for that Aurelion Soul like later on, that means you kind of need some lanes to prop them up early. And then like I felt like the ADC bans also didn't really do anything. Shin always has the Draven. I think top lane I can kind of forgive, but then maybe should have banned the Nara away. I'm not too sure. It just feels like, again, if you're looking for this ASOL last pick, red side counter pick is very important. It can either counter their comp or it can give you a very good winning lane. If you already have 2 losing lanes, it is quite risky to draft that full scaling. So if that was the plan all along, I think probably just needed to pick at least some winning lane, because Lalva needs somewhere to play around or play through. Instead, just kind of spend the whole early game being pushed out of his jungle completely.
You've got to feel like possibly the Caitlyn Lux again. I mean, we saw them play it yesterday to great success, honestly, and it would have sort of gated the early game, allowed Lalva to play through that bot lane. And you'd have to think it actually would completely negate the Draven. Like, the Draven probably couldn't have been picked if you pick the Caitlyn there. It makes it a lot